Again, welcome to the 2018 17th Annual, or the Memorial Service. We had to relocate it from Hackett Hill to here due to inclement weather. Politicians, please excuse my comment, but the politician and the weatherman are on my same plane here. You could be totally wrong and still screw up our lives forever. So, yeah, 80% chance of rain today, nothing. 60% tonight, nothing. But the cause was they were calling for thunderstorms. We could put a tent. The guys in blue had no problem standing in the rain. Bagpipes, they don't like that. But again, we decided to relocate it inside. So please excuse it. We hope we can accommodate everybody. So let's get the show on the road. Okay.
Detail, hedge, hut. Detail, hand salute.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Tune.
Everybody, have a seat.
Parade. Risk.
It says now opening remarks, so that's me. I would like to start out by thanking the town for allowing us the opportunity to relocate to this facility. I actually think you can get more people if you turn your seats on a 45 like you see we did for your meetings. Probably looks better on TV. So one of the things that I saw on Facebook, probably every post today, was we should never forget this day. We are asked to never forget it, and those of us in a uniform are reminded of it every day. Because of this day, what we do, how we do it, has totally changed. Our awareness is heightened. Our thought process of the who, what, wheres, and hows has taken a different approach. The thing about this tragic event is that we learn something from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. We in the emergency services have learned a lot, and we've changed the way that we approach our situations. On 9/11, 343 firefighters were killed, which was the largest loss of life in a single incident ever. Here we are 17 years later, and we need to recognize the 182 firefighters who have since died due to cancer related to that one incident. And again, how can we forget? On this day, 23 police officers were killed, and in the last 17 years, 156 have died due to cancer related to this day. And again, how can we forget? Since 9/11, over 9,000 people have developed some type of cancer related for working at the site. And again, how can we forget? On this day, those members in uniform responded. They took the magnitude, looked at the magnitude of the situation, and they went to work saving lives. They didn't pull up to the scene and say, oh no, not today, I'm not doing this. They would look up and they would look up in the sky and do what they have to do. I would like you to stand right now, and I would like you to turn around and look at the wall of blue in the back. That group of people you see are your neighbors. Not one of them will say, not me. They have already made the choice to do what they have to do to save you. I would like you to take the time at this time and thank these people, your neighbors, your friends, and your family. Thank you. Now you sit. Okay, I'd like to call up Stephanie to recognize and do her thanks. Where Stephanie Parisi. She's about this tall, black dress. Okay, here she comes. Good girl, Steph. Okay, I can step aside.
Good evening. I am a proud member of the Paul Tegmeyer Memorial Committee. I would like to thank the following people: the Tegmeyer family, the Tegmeyer committee members, ceremony participants, ceremony contributors, the volunteers that helped, High Park Police, Town of High Park Recreation, Anthony Arrico Jr., Hunter Parisi, Ray Milligan, Barry Memorials, the Capolo family, High Park Stop and Shop, the Flower Barn, High Park Florists and Gifts, Poughkeepsie Price Chopper, Stack Landscaping and Masonry, Carl Schroeder, John Stagnaro, Amber Banks, High Park Boy Scouts Troop 80, High Park Girl Scouts Cadets Troops 10157, Smiley's Signs and Graphics, Deborah Livers, and our community for your continued support. I thank you very much.
At this time, Father Chuck. Sorry, that's all. I call you Father Chuck. I think everybody knows who you are. If they don't, this is Father Chuck.
This is just like church. Nobody wants to sit in the front row. So what we'll do is we'll all stand. Let's all please stand. And let us pray.
Detail. Uncover.
Most loving God, today you called us to remember. It is right and good to do so. We remember with somberness those who were killed in the attacks on our nation 17 years ago. We remember with gratitude the heroes like Paul Tegmeyer who rushed into the jaws of death to save others. We remember with concern the first responders who to this day suffer physical after effects. We remember because it is our duty and privilege. But Lord, you call us to do so much more than remember. You call us each day to rise above victimhood and fear, to become the agents of the healing and peace this world needs. You call us to reach out to others who are hurting all across the globe. From the healing we have experienced over these 17 years, you call us to bring them comfort too. And let us start bringing comfort tonight by lifting up in our prayers our brothers and sisters along the southern coast who are in the path of Hurricane Florence, who will be in the hands of many first responders. Let us together pray that they will withstand this danger and come out on the other side strengthened and also ready to help others. Because while we remember a great evil visited upon us 17 years ago, it is not that evil that defines us. Rather, it is your call to us to remember that we are all your children. Amen.
Detail. Cover.
Now you can sit. He left you hanging. All righty. Next up will be Will Truitt, our county legislator. One of the things about asking Will to attend tonight is to get a different perspective on what it's been like for 17 years. I think you were, what, first grade? I could make a second and everybody think you're older, but, you know, again, a different perspective on the last 17 years.
Good evening, everyone. It's so great to see all you out here tonight, and it's truly an honor and a privilege to be here and to be able to offer a few remarks in remembrance of 9/11/01 and all our first responders and everyone who lost their lives that day. I was 6 years old when this all happened. I'm 23 now, so that minus 17, I guess I was 6. And I was in first grade at Ralph R. Smith Elementary, and in Mrs. Rodak's class, if anyone remembers her. Great lady. I just saw her at an event. It was a tough day. I went into school that morning. It's the beginning of September, and you're just returning to school, and I was excited. I'm in my first grade. Like, you got out of kindergarten, now you're in your first year of actual school. And I remember that morning because we get in at 9 a.m. and it's about a class of 20, 25 students. And shortly after we begun class, the phone goes off and my teacher goes over and a parent's there to pick up their child. And then about every 10 minutes thereafter, it was the same thing. And I remember after about 10 calls, it was my turn to leave. And it was, my mom was there with my little sister at the time. And they're there in the lobby to pick me up, and I had no idea what was going on at all, nothing at all. And I remember my mom telling me that something horrible had happened, and we went back home, and my dad was actually on his way. He, as a police canine sergeant, he was off to canine training. He went every other week or so to Kingston, and I remember him calling us on the phone, and it was just a lot of confusion at such a young age. Not really understanding what's going on, but seeing the panic in my mom's eyes, my dad's voice, not knowing what's happening. And so, and then the rest of my family ended up coming over. My aunts, my uncles came over to our house. So me and my cousins were just playing. But even though we were having a good time, it did not slip our minds what was happening. It was such a horrible event. And since that year, on this day, we stop every single year to pause and think of all those people that sacrificed their lives and all those that we lost, our brothers and sisters, our fellow Americans. And it gives us a reason today to truly thank all our law enforcement and our emergency responders for all that they do. They protect all of us in this room, they protect all of us in this community, and they protect this nation. And for that, we will be eternally, eternally grateful and thankful for all that you do for us. So God bless everyone in this room, and God bless our country and all those people that we lost on that terrible, terrible day. Thank you all.
Our next speaker not only is a personal friend and a mentor and a highly respected chief officer in Dutchess County, who also knew Paul, and hopefully his comments will be what we could say in public, so to speak. Chief John Richardson, the Arlington Fire Department.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say hello to everybody here from the town, my brothers and sisters in blue, to Craig and the committee for inviting me, Senator Serino. I'd like to thank you all for inviting me to speak at this year's memorial service. I didn't know Paul as well as many of you in the crowd here tonight who came to pay respects to Paul for being the special person he was, and to all the others who gave it all on that tragic day. I would see Paul on and off while he was working for IBM, before he went to work for Verizon, or at the Roosevelt Fire Department parade or fire. And the one thing we would always talk about was his desire to go to the FDNY, or what his score was on the FDNY test, and how his status was in regard to getting on the job with the FDNY. He mentioned that he would be aging out soon, and he was concerned his lifelong dream to be a member of the FDNY may never be achieved. Sure, he was a firefighter with Roosevelt, but that was just the prelims to a career he so wanted. Tonight I will introduce a little vocabulary lesson in remembrance of Paul. Webster's dictionary defines desire, when used as a noun, as a strong feeling of wanting to have something or wishing for something to happen. Other synonyms are wish, want, aspirations, etc. When used as a verb, it is described as strongly to wish or want something. Other synonyms are craving, hankering after, eagerness, and determination. To those of you who knew Paul, I'm sure you will agree this was Paul. The next word is perseverance. It is described as a steady persistence in a course of action, especially in spite of difficulties, obstacles, or discouragement. Continuing in a course of action without regard or discouragement. Again, I ask, was this not Paul? Paul finally got the chance to go to the FDI Academy in what ended up being the last class from an eligibility list before he aged out. His desire and perseverance paid off. He was now a probie, but his next challenge was to survive probie school as a 40-year-old man, married and a father of 2 children, who was surrounded by young, mostly younger, Irish 20-year-old men, big, strong, with mustaches. In about his 3rd week, he got a major scare when one of the instructors, Rich Dorr, who's here with us tonight, found out from Craig Elderkin that a local guy and firefighter from Roosevelt Fire Department was in the class. The recruits were all in the auditorium when Rich asked one of the drill sergeants to discreetly go down, search out Paul, and ask him to meet him upstairs in his office. Now, anyone who knows a drill instructor knows that they do not know the meaning of discreet. So in true form, he walked into the auditorium and screamed for Paul to go up to the instructor's office. Paul got up, walked up to Rich's office, white as a ghost and sweating, and figured the worst, thinking he was going to be flunking out of probie school and would be terminated. That was not the case. Rich just wanted to meet him. They sat and talked for a while, and Rich told him he could miss the 5-mile run schedule for that time, have a cold water, and spend some time together so they could get to know each other. They became friends after that meeting, and Rich even helped Paul get assigned to Ladder 46 in the Bronx, which was one of his desired work assignments. Excuse me. So Paul completed probie school, got assigned to a truck company, and life was great. His dreams had been attained, and now we move on to the rest of the vocabulary lesson. The next word we need to review is courage. Courage is often described as the ability to do something that frightens one. Synonyms are fearless, having nerves, daring, boldness, and yes, Webster's also says having cayunes. We all know this describes Paul as well as all firefighters, police officers, and military, etc. You cannot work either as a volunteer or a career firefighter without having the courage to go into a burning building with smoke so dense you cannot see the hand in front of you, and the heat is so hot it's melting your helmet shield. On the morning of 9/11, Paul was detailed to 26 Engine, which is on 37th Street in Manhattan, and was just coming in for a shift when box 8087 rang in for Vesey and Church Street. That morning, the firefighters knew of the severity of the box, either because they saw or heard the crash, or heard first arriving units from Ten House calling with the reports of a fiery crash as they pulled out of their station, which was adjacent to the World Trade Center complex. Because there was shift change, many firefighters from the shift being relieved jumped on the rigs to help out, as they all knew the severity of the call. This shows the courage of the firefighters that he knew that this alarm, of any they had ever heard, would require the assistance of as many men and women as possible. The last word tonight is hero, which Webster describes as a person who is admired or idolized for his courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. The bravery of Paul and his fellow firefighters, police, and EMS workers who ran into the towers will always be remembered. They are true heroes. They are the one and only way to describe first responders on that day. Although 343 firefighters and 72 police officers from the NYPD and PASNY died on 9/11, the courage of all those involved saved the lives of over 25,000 people. The current 9/11 count related firefighter deaths now stands at 525 firefighters who either died that day or since then due to 9/11 cancer. Paul was one of the 343 firefighters, in addition to the chief of department, Peter Gansey, and department chaplain Mike L. Judge, who also died that day. The courage of the firefighters ranged from the newest guy on the job to the chief of the department. They gave it their all that day. Shortly after 9/11, the International Association of Fire Chiefs issued these black rubber bracelets. It reads, "Everyone goes home." I've never taken this off, and although I'm no longer a fire chief, I will continue to wear it. While I was chief, I wore it as a constant reminder of the responsibility that comes with wearing the bugles. Firefighters have no fear. They're always ready to put their lives at risk, as we witnessed just last week when Assistant Chief Mike Valentino of the Hackensack Fire Company and another firefighter from the Fishkill Fire Department rushed into a still out-of-control burning home to try and save 7-year-old Sean Burlingame. Sean died that day, but the heroism of those 2 guys who had to bail out of the second-story window head first to save their own life was captured by fire photographer and past Chief Bill Johnson of the New Hackensack Fire Department. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what firefighters do, and Paul is an example of a great hero from this area who gave it all on that horrific day. As I conclude my comments tonight, I ask you all to keep those who died in your prayers and never forget. To Kathy and Eric, I admire your courage in dealing with the outcome of that day. Paul helped save lives of countless individuals. To Eric, I also wish you well in following in the footsteps of many FDNY firefighters, including past Chief Gansey, who have sons and daughters who are now on the job as you move from EMS to firefighter in the FDNY, the greatest fire department in the world. Hopefully you will get assigned to 46 truck to further honor your father. Thank you, good night, God bless, and never forget.
At this time, uniform members, we would like to honor those who are no longer with us this year. As signified in the fire service, there's a bell rung. 555 is signaling a line of duty death. At this point, we will see a single ring for the following members.
Detail.
Past Chief
Page. Hut.
Tom O'Gorman, fire instructor, mentor, gentleman, and friend. Past Chief Tom Ballou of the High Park Fire Department. Pleasant Valley firefighter George Thomas, Company 1. Firefighter Bobby Dunnigan, Pleasant Valley Fire Department, Company 1. Firefighter Commissioner Fred Albrick, Pleasant Valley, Company 1. Past Chief Stephen Coons of the Milan Fire Department. Former firefighter and friend Thomas Harkins, Roosevelt, Company 1. As you look around, the wreaths have been already placed to honor those that are in uniform services. At this time, I'd like to say thank you to the Town of Hyde Park again for your facilities. And Chris, you all set?
Wow. Yeah, I'm ready.
It ain't my fault you're late.
I gotta blame it on a beam down in near Jacob Jabson.
Okay.
Goes up to West Side High.
Ladies and gentlemen, another speaker, retired firefighter Chris Edwards, who served with Paul in 81-46.
Parade. Yes.
Wow. Yeah. I'd like to, first of all, thank everybody for coming. Kathy, Adrian, Eric, Jack, and Paul's family. It's so important for us to be here today to honor Paul. I'd like to say, the first time I met Paul, I actually met Paul before I met Paul physically. And I was playing in an over 40 softball league down in Georgia. And there was another player on the team that came over to me and said, "Oh, you're a New York City firefighter." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm a New York City fireman." He goes, "Well, listen, I got a good friend of mine who's getting on the job." So I said, "Really?" I said, "What's his name?" He goes, "Paul Tegmeyer." I said, "Really?" I go, "Well, what house is he coming into?" He goes, "Really, I don't know. But he goes, he's old." And I said, he's old. He goes, "Yeah, he's an old probie." So I was waiting for this guy to come in, and what ended up happening was like almost 6 months between the time, after the tournament was over, I went back to the firehouse. What happened was I went through a series of 5 knee surgeries to stay on the job. And one day they go, "Chris, the probie's coming in." So I was sitting at the table. One of the worst places a probie has to pass when he gets on the job is the kitchen table. It's absolutely brutal, if you've ever been there. But Paul passed with flying colors. I was sitting there, and all of a sudden they say the probie's coming in. And the next thing I know, I see this guy walking in the back door. And I said, "Oh, you must be the detail." And he goes, "No, I'm the probie." I said, "You're the probie?" I said, "Let me tell you something. I went through knee surgeries, and I'm walking better than you." And he goes, "Well, listen." He goes, "You know what?" He goes, "I got on the job late." I go, "Really?" I go, "What's your name?" He goes, "Paul Tegmeyer." So Paul, I met before I even met him physically. But there was a look in Paulie's eye that, not every probie has. Probationary firefighter comes in the back door and he's kind of like timid, They don't know what to expect. But Paul had a glow that I really can't even describe. Like almost, confident. Something that he wanted to do so bad. And I think that was the whole idea. This was his dream. And his dream was to become a New York City firefighter. And when he came in the house, he was one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to work with. He was a great firefighter. We ended up finding a family, Kathy and the kids. He's a great father, a great brother. And he was just one of those guys that you drew next to Paul. And you just knew that he was the type of guy that if there was ever going to be any kind of trouble, Paul would be the guy you'd want to follow. And that's the experience that he had when he was a volunteer firefighter up this way, up north. And you started realizing that to get on the job at that late of an age, you know, I was all beat up by the time I was 42. And I had, you know, they wanted to put me out and retire me. And here you got a guy walking through the back door at 40 years old that wanted to start. You know, you can't describe somebody's heart until you see them and meet them and understand what's the driving force behind somebody like that. It's behind a firefighter that wants to go out and risk his life for other people. And you know what? I mean, one of the greatest role models that his children could ever have, and his wife, Kathy, is to have somebody who risked their life for other people. You know, and Alex and Adrian, you growing up, and you're a combination of two of the greatest people that you'd ever want to talk about. You got a mother who's dedicated her life to help people, and you have a father that sacrificed his life and put his life on the line for total strangers on one of the worst days in the history of our country. The bad was bad, but the good was great. And guys like Paul Tegmeyer and all the 343 brothers who passed away with Paul, those are the guys that made it the greatest. They sacrificed life. But Paul was doing what he loved to do. And you got two chips of the old block that are following his father's footsteps. And with Kathy and his daughter, these are the people that are a combination of two of the greatest, in Kathy and Paul. And you have a beautiful, beautiful family. And I know Paul right now is looking down and has a big smile on his face because he was the type of guy that when he walked in the back room, he wasn't timid. He had a smile on his face that lit up the room. And when I said to him, "Hey kid," I said, "You're coming in walking worse than me." And a kid like, guy like that would break down, be afraid. But as a man who he was, he sat down and he laughed and he walked around and he took it. He was always in the sink. He wasn't the type of guy getting on the job at 40 years old thinking that somebody who's under his age is going to be doing dishworking. Paul was in the dishes. Paul was in the mop. Paul was cleaning, doing beds, all the things that is not seen in the public eye. But the most important thing, what he did in front of everybody, was he sacrificed his life for so many. And he turned out two beautiful children that are following in your father's footsteps. And on behalf of myself, 81 and 46, and I know Pop went down to 4-engine for a while, I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be able to come out and speak and tell you Paul's story. Because he's truly, your father is one of the greatest, and he always will be the greatest. And don't ever stop thinking past tense. Always talk to your father every day. I travel around the country since they retired me. I have an opportunity to go around with a 9/11 exhibit. And I go around the country, and I've been on 13 or 14 stops with the Stephen Siller Tunnels to Tower exhibit. Goes around the country. And I want to tell you something. Your father and all the brothers who have died on 9/11 and all the brothers who have died after will never, ever be forgotten. I get a little choked up. I'd like to say one other thing. September 11 was a day that the old saying that grown men don't cry went right out the window. So if I get emotional, you'll understand exactly why. But it's the idea of the sacrifice and what these guys do. I go around the country, and I want to tell Kathy, Adrian, and Eric, and Jack that I will never, ever let anybody ever forget your brother, your father, and your husband. And I'll tell everybody in the room, I will never let anybody ever forget that 40-year-old probie that came in the back door, walking worse than me. And I'll tell his story everywhere I go. So on behalf of myself, like I said, the New York City Fire Department, the brothers from 81 and 46, I want to thank you all so much for sharing your father with us and the opportunity we had to meet one of the greatest. So God bless you all, folks, and thank you all so much for having us down here. Thank you.
So as we, at this time, again, I'd like to thank the Town of Hyde Park, the Hyde Park Police Department, Tegmeyer Committee, and the Tegmeyer family. Jack, we've done a lot of hugging, a lot of crying, a little bit of ass grabbing. But that's who we are. So, and with the ass grabbing part, I now lead into Father Chuck doing the benediction. So, firehouse culture, people, is something that you on the outside will never, ever understand until you walk through that door. There's a saying at Fairview, which I just retired, the doors are open and the coffee's always on. And that is true in any firehouse. So, Father Chuck.
Detail, attention, hut. Uncover.
Let's all please stand again. Let us pray. Holy God, send us all home this evening in safety and in peace. Send us home with thankful hearts, and send us home with a resolve to also serve our communities, our country, our neighbors. Send us home with the courage to do what you would have us do, to help those in need, no matter what that need is, and to do so knowing that this life is always temporary, but love, service, and courage, there forever. Amen.
Detail. Cover.
At this time, Don Morbiel's going to sing God Bless America.
Please feel free to join in. This is unrehearsed. Land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
At that time, that concludes the memorial services tonight. Be safe, drive home, and watch out for us.